You're watching the Fox 5 Morning News at 7.
Live up from our Soledad camera. Good morning to you, 7:43. If you are just waking up, welcome to Wednesday. All right, we could all use some help saving for our kids' education. Chase Wilsey of Wilsey Asset Management is here with some tips. The 529 plan, I feel like we've talked about this before, but still not many people might know what it is and if it's a good fit for your family.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've been getting this question a lot. I have several friends now that are kind of getting to that age where they are starting to have kids and they're like, I want to start saving now for education. It's like, all right, great. Like, what should we be doing? Let's take a look at it. One of the biggest questions is the 529 plan. It's probably the most well-known education savings plan. And a lot of people turn to it because they hear all these great tax benefits. But I don't want to put a damper on it, but when you actually break down the numbers, it's not as enticing as many people believe.
Okay, tell us about the 529 plan, because you're going to put a damper on my mood because I have these for my kids. As soon as I had a baby, I signed up for it, and I just put away a little money, and it just goes there, and I don't really think about it. So why is this exciting for people? Why were we turned on to do this? And what are the maybe not the best benefits to have for this?
Yeah, so we're turned on to do it because obviously you know the cost of college is soaring. So it's kind of that emotional thing of like, okay, I want to give my kids that gift of college down the road. And it's been, I'm going to say, characterized as a great way to be doing that. Yes. But when you look at it, I'm going to tell you, it's not wrong for everybody. So if you have a 529 plan, don't worry and be like, oh my gosh, they're terrible. They're not terrible. But I'm just saying there's different alternatives that you can look at. And the reason that I point out the 529 plan is here in California, there's several states where if you put money into a state-sponsored 529 plan, you get a state tax deduction. That's very beneficial. Unfortunately, here in California, there's no state tax deduction. We have very high state income tax here in California. That'd be a nice benefit if that was allowable. What
is the benefit of doing 529 plan then?
So the only real benefit I see here is you get tax-free growth. So if you look at putting money in, and let's say you do it for 18 years, whatever your gains are, if you were to have that money in, let's say, a taxable investment account, you'd pay capital gains tax along the way. So you get to forego those taxes. That's a nice benefit. But the problem I look at here is I tell people it's not for the average person. Because if you look at couples that make and have taxable income of under about $83,000, $84,000, you pay 0% federal capital gain tax anyways. So you're not going to be paying any taxes. You're not getting any true savings from that. And the other problem is if you have to pull out money from that 529 plan and it's not for qualified educational expenses, those gains are subject to a 10% penalty. California imposes a 2.5% penalty, and they're subject to income taxes. So there's a lot of limitations on them, and I generally don't like when my money is limited for me.
Well, what should people do then? Where would your suggestion? You're telling us this is not the best plan for everybody. It could be for some, not for everybody. What are our other options that if we want to save money for our kids, college?
Well, I like to have lots of options when it comes to investing, and that's another issue with the 529 plan is the investment options are really limited. So you can do different state-sponsored plans just because you live here in California. You can do an Arizona state-sponsored 529 plan. So you can look at different ones across the country. There's also broker-advised funds and advisor-advised funds. But the problem is the broker-advised funds, they can carry high commissions. You got to watch out where those commissions can be as high as 5–6% when you're putting money into it. And then us as our registered investment advisory firm at Wilsey Asset Management, we looked at doing advisor-funded 529 plans, but there were so many hands in the pot, there was just way too many expenses. We said, no, let's not do it. What we tell people to do is build your own net worth. So invest for your family, essentially. And then when your kids become 18 years old, if you want to give them that gift of education, you can. You can make those educational payments on their behalf. That's how we look at it, is build your own net worth. That way you have that ability down the line.
So you're saying don't have these separate accounts for your kids' college education? Is that what your advice is?
I would say, yeah, don't have that separate educational fund. What I would look at, and we have clients that say sometimes, hey, I want to save for the education side. Okay, let's open up a separate investment account. It's still in your name, you and your husband's name, whatever it may be, and you build that account up. And then when your kids become 18, you can use those funds for them. But it kind of reminds me as well of like you're on the airplane, you know that emergency comes on, take care of yourself first before taking care of your kid. It's kind of the same thing. You would hate if, let's say in 10, 15 years, you've been putting all this money in the 529 plan, you run into financial hardship, you can't access those funds without incurring penalties. you're going to be in a tough situation.
Yeah, but what about the family that had all this money just kind of doing that, and then after 17, 18 years, all of a sudden, bam, you have a nice little, pocket of money that you could just give to the kids. That might work too.
It would, but that's why, again, I would keep that in a separate account. Don't use the 529 plan. And again, I want to say don't use it. There are benefits to it. Like, for example, it really benefits a lot of the higher income people because of that tax-free growth. But if you're only paying, let's say, 15% capital gain tax, 0% capital gain tax, it's not going to be a big benefit to you. So you got to break down the numbers.
Something really interesting here, because you get sold on these things and you just go ahead and dump your money into it. So hopefully people will take a look and see if it's a right fit for them. Chase, always good having you here. Thank you.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Fox 5